Everyone was looking to Billy Gibbons after the unexpected death of Dusty Hills. Who knew what he would say? His fans were left guessing. His next move? Who knows? All eyes were on the signal. Everyone was taken aback when Gibbons eventually spoke out. After that, what transpired in the subsequent days? For ZZ Top, what did this signal for the future? Discover the plot that had viewers on the edge of their seats. The sudden loss comes as a shock. It was completely unexpected that Dusty Hill would pass away. He was a touring member with ZZ Top at one point. He vanished the following day. The music industry ground to a halt on July 28, 2021. Legendary ZZ Top bassist and singer Dusty Hill has died in Houston, Texas. It was unexpected. Even among his closest bandmates, nobody anticipated it. The two surviving members of the legendary rock band, Frank Beard and Billy Gibbons, made the announcement. A sincere and straightforward statement was issued by them. We regret to inform you that our comrade Dusty Hill has died peacefully at his Houston residence. The loss of a bandmate was only part of it. An era seemed to be coming to a close. ZZ. Over the course of more than half a century with the same members, Top became more than simply a band. They became an icon of Texas rock. It all revolved on Dusty Hill. His serene demeanor, lengthy beard, and sunglasses made him easily identifiable. Songs like Tush and La Grange were propelled by his distinctive vocals and deep bass beats. Dusty was more than that. He was the band's unsung hero. He should have been quiet, so as to elicit reverence. Billy Gibbons remarked that Dusty had impeccable timing when it came to music. Just by walking into a song, he could instantly elevate it. He was the type of guy you could rely on no matter what, according to Frank Beard. Dusty stood patiently on the left side of the stage for more than half a century, never wanting for attention. One of the keys to ZZ Top's success was their unassuming reliability, so it was a huge blow when word got out that Dusty had left. The response came right away. Tributes and recollections were shared by fans on social media in abundance. Notable rockers, fellow musicians, and ardent fans all voiced their shock and astonishment. An enduring icon, he embodied ZZ Top's spirit, according to one admirer. Nobody could have been unaware of Dusty Hill if they hadn't been paying attention to ZZ Top. His tone, his presence, and his appearance, all of them belong in the annals of rock and roll. Dusty had already departed the tour a few days prior to his death because of a hip problem, which made the loss that much more devastating. A lot of folks were hoping he'd return shortly. Give Elwood the low end and take it to the high end, Dusty told Billy Gibbons, who joked about it on stage. That was Dusty, constantly composed and dedicated. He ensured that the show would continue even when he had to step aside due to health issues. However, without Dusty, who was more than just a musician, the concert would lack its soul. It seemed like if Billy and Frank had lost a brother when he passed away. Everything from vehicles to hotels to stages to thousands of meals were shared. They had weathered the mentioned in interviews. He has sores on his hip, shoulder, and abdomen. Eventually, his body could no longer handle it. That is the tragic reality. What befell Dusty Hill was more than the sum of its parts. It was flawless. The fact that Dusty refused to slow down only adds insult to injury. On stage, he felt at home. Fans were his favorite. And until the very end, he continued to turn up, suffering and all. His determination never wavered, not even while his physical health was failing. Thinking back on it all, the injuries, the decision to cut back on touring, and the discreet departure are all little red flags. Imagine a man who devoted his life to music until he could no longer do it. Regarding his health, Dusty preferred not to draw attention to it. His goal was not to elicit sympathy. He yearned to play piano, and that is just what he accomplished. When you witness a rock star perform, you might think they can do no wrong. Despite this, Dusty Hill possessed human characteristics, endured physical and mental trauma, as well as the gradual ravages of time. Regardless, he managed it with poise, self-respect, and courage. Even though Dusty Hill is no longer with us, the reality of his journey, his bravery, his suffering, and his music will live on in our hearts forever. Dusty's untimely demise shocked many. Billy Gibbons was also deeply affected. It was a while before he could come to terms with the fact that his longtime bandmate had passed away. However, when Gibbons did speak out, he divulged previously unknown insights about Dusty Hill and personal anecdotes. At long last, Gibbons spoke up. Over the course of more than half a century, Dusty Hill, Frank Beard, and Billy Gibbons were more than simply bandmates. Music, camaraderie, and a lifetime of shared memories bound them together like brothers. Thus, Dusty Hill's death marked more than the conclusion of a chapter. A piece of Zetop's spirit seems to have been severed. In an emotional interview with Classic Rock, Gibbons expressed the profound shock he felt at hearing of Dusty's passing. Dusty seemed dedicated and engaged even throughout tour rehearsals. Everything appeared to be going according to plan as the band had scheduled a full week of practice. Gibbons recalled that Dusty hadn't been acting strangely prior to our arrival for the inaugural performance. Somehow they made it through the show, but clearly something was off. Both Dusty's expression and his activity level conveyed it to Gibbons. He remembered that it was obvious he wasn't feeling well. He would never forget what happened next. Dusty expressed his need to see a psychiatrist after that performance in order to identify his downfall to Gibbons. He politely requested a moment to himself, and go to see the physician and see if we can iron out what's got me on the ropes. Dusty returned to his home in Houston and scheduled the appointment, but that very night he went to bed and never woke up. It was that night he went to sleep, and it was lights out, Gibbons said, the pain clear in his words. It was totally unexpected. Gibbons' reaction was raw and deeply emotional. In a separate interview with Variety, he admitted, "I had a couple of moments with the waterworks coming and going, and I really felt a sense of relief. I said, gee whiz, maybe I am human after all." After 5 decades of friendship, it was a heartbreaking realization. He had lost not just a bandmate, but someone who felt like family. Speaking about Dusty's health, Gibbons revealed that Dusty had been dealing with multiple issues: bursitis, arthritis, ulcers, and chronic pain in his hip and shoulder. Let's face it, you don't necessarily pass away from a broken shoulder or broken hip, Gibbons said, but he was moving a little slow. He said, boy, this shoulder and hip are really starting to become a problem. Despite these aches, no one thought they would be fatal. In the end, there was no dramatic final moment. It was off to dreamland and beyond, Gibbons said, summing up the peaceful but tragic nature of Dusty's past. As Gibbons reflected more on Dusty's death, he quoted his fellow guitarist Steve Cropper, who had once mourned the loss of his own bandmate by saying that Dusty brought for more than 50 years for Gibbons and drummer Frank Beard. It wasn't an easy question, but Dusty had left them with a clear message before leaving. Let's tell you about it. The show must go on. Before the world knew him as the bearded blues rock icon, Billy Gibbons was a Texas native with music in his blood. He grew up in Houston, Texas in a musical family. His father was a conductor and pianist, and Billy was introduced to classical music and blues at a young age. As a teenager, he was deeply inspired by the sounds of B.B. King, Jimmy Reed, and Muddy Waters. He formed his first band, the Saints, and later the Moving Sidewalks, a psychedelic blues rock group that gained some local attention. The Moving Sidewalks had one big break when they opened for Jimi Hendrix, who even praised Gibbons as one of the most promising young guitarists in America. But despite this high-profile endorsement, national fame remained out of reach. The music scene was competitive, and Gibbons struggled to maintain momentum after the brief success of his early projects. Around the same time, Dusty Hill was navigating his own set of challenges. Born in Dallas, he started playing music with his brother Rocky Hill in local blues bands. One of the bands they formed was American Blues, which also included drummer Frank Beard. Dusty faced a tough decision early in his career when his brother left the band due to creative differences. Wanted to stay rooted in traditional blues, while Dusty was open to blending blues with rock to reach a wider audience. Choosing to stay with American blues meant letting go of a family connection and stepping into the unknown. Both Gibbons and Hill faced the harsh reality of the 1960s and early 70s music industry. Record labels were skeptical of unconventional sounds, and regional bands often struggled to break into national markets. Gibbons, after the Moving Sidewalks disbanded, was nearly back at square one. Zetop came together in 1969 with Gibbons on guitar and vocals, Dusty on bass and vocals, and Frank Beard behind the drums. What they built was more than just a band. It was a vision. A little bit blues, a little bit boogie, and pure Texas swagger. Their look, their sound, and their chemistry were electric. They weren't trying to mimic anyone. They were crafting something all their own. The little old band from Texas became one of the most consistent acts in rock history, sticking together for over 50 years and producing hits like LaGrange, Sharp-Dressed Man and Legs. What made them unique was their unity. 3 men, 1 sound, and an unspoken brotherhood. Despite finally finding success, both Gibbons and Hill carried the lessons of their early struggles with them. They understood the value of perseverance, the importance of staying true to their sound, and the need for creative control. Their journey from small-town bars to global stages was a testament to grit and determination. And while fame eventually followed, it was the difficult years, the setbacks, the losses, the uncertain nights that built the foundation for the iconic Z-Top. When Dusty passed away, it shook the very foundation of that brotherhood. Gibbons admitted it hit him hard emotionally and spiritually. Was an unexpected reality that landed not only in my lap, but allowed me to hunker down and get serious with Mr. Beard, Gibbons said in an interview. He remembered Dusty's last words vividly. Before stepping away from touring due to health issues, Dusty had chosen Elwood Francis, Gibbons' longtime guitar tech, as his substitute. With clarity and determination, Dusty had told Gibbons, "The show must go on. Don't forget it." Gibbons said he pointed and even shook his finger as he spoke, making sure the message stuck. That sentence became the guiding force for what followed. Instead of disbanding, Gibbons and Beard chose to honor Dusty by doing what he loved most, playing music. As an honor to the legacy of the band, we felt it would be more suitable to try to pick up sticks and carry on rather than just throw in the towel, Gibbons said. His public statement echoed this commitment. ZZ Top will soldier on, he declared, reflecting both strength and respect for what the band represented. It wasn't just about keeping the music alive. It was about carrying the spirit and bond that Dusty helped build. The choice of Elwood Francis as Dusty's replacement wasn't a marketing decision or a fresh start. It was about family. Elwood had been with the band for over 30 years, tuning guitars, managing gear, and becoming part of the ZZ Top brotherhood. And more importantly, it was Dusty's own wish. Gibbons described Elwood's entry into the band as a surprising but much-needed spark. "It's quite a trip having Elwood step in to help keep the ball rolling," he said. "He's adding a great bit of enthusiasm. When I see Frank Beard smiling for the first time in 30 years, I know something good's happening." In a poetic twist of fate, Elwood emerged from the pandemic with a full beard, something that unintentionally preserved the classic ZZ Top image. And though he came from a punk background, Gibbons noted that Elwood's energy didn't disrupt the ZZ Top sound. It strengthened it. "Might even consider us being somewhat new as a band, which we are. It's really entertaining, I'll say that," Gibbons added. In honoring Dusty Hill's final wish, Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top showed the world that resilience isn't just about survival, it's about purpose. The music, the bond, the message, they all had to endure. As long as the lights stayed on and the amps kept humming, Dusty's voice would never truly fade. And so, with heads high and guitars in hand, they carried forward the legacy of a man whose last words still echo on stage. The show must go on. Apart from honoring Dusty's final wish, let's tell you about the heartwarming tributes he received and the golden legacy he left behind that still echoes through every chord ZZ Top plays. Legacy and tribute moments. In the days following Hill's death, fans and fellow musicians mourned the loss of a man who had shaped generations with his music. But inside the ZZ Top camp, a crucial conversation took place, one rooted in Dusty's own final wishes. Billy Gibbons, Dusty's bandmate and longtime friend, revealed that before his passing, Dusty made one thing crystal clear: the show must go on. Elwood Francis stepping in on bass wasn't just a professional move, it was personal. He had been part of the ZZ Top family for decades, quietly supporting their sound from behind the scenes. Dusty knew that if anyone could carry on his legacy with authenticity and respect, it was Elwood. Gibbons honored this request, and Elwood took the stage with humility, playing not in Dusty's shadow but in his spirit. Elwood's enthusiasm really lit a spark. Gibbons said the crowd erupted in cheers, many wiping away tears. It was a deeply moving moment, one that felt like Dusty was still on stage, still grooving with his brothers. The symbolism was powerful. That hat wasn't just a prop. It was a part of Dusty's soul, a piece of the visual identity that fans across the world had come to recognize. By placing it on the mic, Gibbons turned a simple item into a shrine, allowing fans to say goodbye while also keeping Dusty close. The outpouring of love didn't stop with the band. Musicians across genres and generations paid their respects, sharing stories, memories, and tributes to a man whose influence ran deep. Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness himself, tweeted / of Guns N' Roses, also expressed his sorrow. Dusty Hill was a rock and roll legend through and through and through. His tone, his style, his presence, it was all unmistakable. Sad loss for music. / lead guitarist of Guns N' Roses, also expressed his grief. Dusty Hill was a rock and roll legend through and through. His tone, his style, his presence, it was all unmistakable. Sad loss for music. / emphasized what many felt, that Dusty was one of a kind, a musician who carved out his own sound and identity. Flea, the energetic bassist of Red Hot Chili Peppers, wrote a particularly heartfelt message. Dusty Hill was one of the first bass players I admired. He made that bottom end move like thunder. Respect always. Paul Stanley of Kiss echoed this sentiment, calling Dusty a gentleman and a true original. His groove was the glue of ZZ Top. Paul Stanley of Kiss shared his admiration in a message that praised Dusty's unique charm. Wow, Dusty Hill, what an icon! ZZ Top's sound was rooted in that deep groove, a gentleman and a true original. His words reflected the broader legacy Dusty left, not just in sound but in class and personality. Heinke. Even outside of the rock world, tributes poured in. Country artist Jason Isbell said, Dusty Hill helped define an era. You felt his bass in your chest when it played, and it made you want to move. Meanwhile, blues guitarist Joe Bonamassa praised Hill's dedication to the genre. Dusty never strayed from the roots. He loved the blues and brought it to the masses with style and humor. Fans also paid tribute in touching ways, from placing cowboy hats on fences and mic stands at home concerts, to sharing videos of Dusty's performances and flooding social media with memories. In Houston, a mural of Dusty Hill was painted by local artists, immortalizing the hometown hero with his signature beard and hat. Gibbons and Frank Beard acknowledged this wave of support and expressed their deep gratitude. We've been overwhelmed by the love for Dusty, Gibbons said in a statement. It means everything to us that so many people saw what we saw in him. A true legend, a brother, and a man who lived for the music. After Dusty Hill's death, all eyes turned to Billy Gibbons. Fans and fellow musicians alike were left wondering, how will ZZ Top move forward? And what does the future hold for the iconic trio, now turned duo, Gibbons and ZZ Top's future? In recent interviews, Gibbons has spoken at length about what it means to carry on without Dusty. He's emphasized that the future of ZZ Top isn't just about surviving, it's about honoring the past while still creating. Every performance they now give is infused with memory but also with a renewed energy. Gibbons describes this moment in the band's history as an unexpected reality, one that he and drummer Frank Beard had to face head-on. Rather than ending their journey, they saw it as a chance to reframe what ZZ Top means in a modern world. The band continues to tour actively, and their performances are as electric as ever. But Gibbons has made it clear that these shows are more than just concerts. They are living tributes. During live sets, Dusty is remembered with subtle and meaningful gestures. A pause before a familiar bass line, a hat resting on an empty stand, or even a quiet nod during fan-favorite songs. These are not just tokens of respect. They are part of a larger commitment to keep the heart of ZZ Top beating strong. Looking forward, the band is also working on new music, songs that began taking shape before Dusty's passing and are now being completed with even greater care. Gibbons has described the creative process as both cathartic and motivating. We've got tracks coming, he said. And they're not about sadness. They're about keeping the wheels turning. That's what we do. While no official release date has been confirmed, fans can expect a blend of classic ZZ Top attitude with a slightly more reflective edge, a natural result of recent events, but never straying too far from their blues, rock roots. Beyond the band, the future is equally bright for Billy Gibbons as a solo artist. He's released multiple solo albums in recent years, exploring deeper blues sounds and experimenting with different styles and collaborations. His solo work gives him a creative outlet to explore beyond the framework of ZZ Top while still holding on to the grit and soul that defines his identity. Albums like The Big Bad Blues and Hardware have received critical praise, with many noting how Gibbons continues to push himself musically even after decades in the spotlight. In terms of style, Gibbons has hinted that the new music might lean even more heavily into blues than some of their past records. "Dusty loved the blues," he said. "He always wanted to bring it into everything we did, even our most mainstream hits. So now it's like we're returning to the roots but doing it with everything we've learned along the way." There are strong hints that Gibbons will continue developing solo projects in parallel with his Z-Top work on He's shown interest in working with younger musicians, bringing the blues to a new generation while introducing fresh energy into his sound. "Music's not something you age out of," he said in an interview. "You age into it. You understand more. You feel more. You feel more. And when you've still got a guitar in your hands, the story's not over." In addition to music, Gibbons has been involved in various creative ventures, including film and television cameos, voice acting, and even custom car building. Known for his love of hot rods and classic American muscle cars, Gibbons has merged his music with lifestyle branding in subtle ways, always staying true to his roots while remaining culturally relevant. He's also reportedly involved in a documentary project that will explore ZZ Top's full history, complete with never-before-seen footage, stories from the road, and an intimate look at the band's evolution after Dusty's passing. Gibbons wants the documentary to feel personal, not just a celebration of their success, but a tribute to resilience, loyalty, and creative brotherhood. As for retirement, that doesn't seem to be in the cards. "I don't see any reason to stop," Gibbons has said. "As long as the hands still work and the ideas keep flowing, we're going to keep doing what we love." So what does the future hold for Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top? Continued touring, new music, creative reinvention, and above all, a commitment to keeping the soul of the band alive. And it's not about filling a void, it's about letting the legacy live on in every riff, every lyric, and every roar of the crowd. The beard, the blues, and the grit aren't going anywhere. Not now. Not ever. What are your thoughts on Billy Gibbons' heartfelt tribute to Dusty Hill and his decision to carry Z-Top forward? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.